Chapter 43-45. Lower Realm. Beichun and the rest have already been in the Upper Realm for a few days. I wonder how they are doing in the Upper Realm. Did they reunite with their father? Shangguan Yingying's eyes flashed with a complicated and expectant light. Originally, she felt a little disappointed because she was separated from Beichun and the rest. However, when she thought about how Beichun was able to reunite with his family in the Upper Realm, she felt happy for Beichun from the bottom of her heart. Uncle and the rest should have a huge influence in the Upper Realm. I think it shouldn't be a problem to find Beichun. Xiren's face was filled with a warm smile. You don't have to worry about them. D family. Just from Lord Long and the rest's expression, you can tell how powerful this family is. The most important thing for us now is to increase our cultivation speed and break through to the Star Radiance realm as soon as possible. This way, we will be able to meet up with Beichun and Hong Zhuang at the D family. Shangguan Yingying nodded. I didn't expect there to be an upper realm. Just thinking about it makes me excited. I just received a letter from Tiangang sect. It's addressed to Beichun. However, they aren't here right now, so I opened it to take a look. It shouldn't be a problem, right? Beichun never hid anything from us. Moreover, sect head Situ also watched us grow up. It shouldn't be a problem. Xiren comforted. What's written on it? It's about Beichun's background. Previously, Uncle D went to Tiangang sect and found out about Beichun's true identity. Sect head Situ wrote this letter to let Beichun understand everything. However, I don't think it's necessary now. By the time we go up, Beichun would have already become the D family's young master. That's true. Huh. Xiren couldn't help but chuckle. When I first met Beichun, I felt that he couldn't be an abandoned orphan. Think about it. His looks are so demonic, and his strength is so abnormal. Who would abandon such a child? Now it seems that he is indeed a young master. I'm afraid it will take some time for Sect Master Situ and the others to receive the letter we sent back. The distance between here and the outside world is simply too far. I hope Sect Master Situ and the others won't be worried. Don't worry, it's fine. Xiren was very indifferent. Although one upper realm and the other lower realm are very far apart, Beichun can come down and find us at any time. Who knows? Beichun and Hong Zhuang might have already returned to see us before we even break through to the Star Radiance realm. Now that I think about it, if that's really the case, it would be a little embarrassing. Shangguan Yingying shrugged. We still have to seize the time to cultivate and improve our cultivation as soon as possible. That's right. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. We can't be too weak. Having said that, Xiren and Shangguan Yingying couldn't help but look at each other. Then, the two of them immediately began cultivating. What happened last time was still fresh in their minds. If it wasn't because they weren't strong enough, Beichun and Hong Zhuang wouldn't have been forced to enter the upper realm. What happened in the past couldn't be changed. They could only hope that such a thing wouldn't happen again. After a short period of depression, Xiaobai had already recovered and accepted the fact that he had already become D Beichun's contracted beast. Chapter 43-46. Master, Xiao He and Xiao Bai have already awakened their attributes. When can I awaken my attributes? Ever since he found out that Xiao He and Xiao Bai's attributes had awakened on their own, White Lion had been very envious. Unfortunately, he could not awaken his attributes directly like Xiao He and Xiao Bai. He would probably need a device to awaken his attributes. Bailey Hongzhuang turned and saw White Lion's expectant look. Her lips immediately curled into a faint smile. She reached out and rubbed White Lion's soft head. You've already broken through to the Starlight Realm. You can indeed awaken your attributes. I'll ask Steward Wu later if he can borrow the device to help you awaken your attributes. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, White Lion's eyes lit up. Thank you, Master. What's there to thank me for? Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. This is what I should do. White Lion chuckled. Its expression was filled with excitement and anticipation. It did not know what kind of attributes it would awaken. White Lion is a beast king. I wonder what kind of attributes it will awaken. Just thinking about it makes me very excited. Bailey Hongzhuang tapped her chin with her index finger. A glimmer of anticipation appeared in her clear black and white eyes. She was really looking forward to White Lion's attributes awakening. Thinking about it, once White Lion's attributes awakened, it would definitely become even more powerful. Indeed, I wonder what White Lion's attributes are. Bewitching looked at White Lion's muscular body. Its fur is also white. Perhaps its attributes are also light. That I don't know. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. However, if that's really the case, it's pretty good. My contracted beast, and I actually have the same attributes. If word gets out, I'm afraid everyone will find it very magical. Wife, after awakening our attributes, we'll have to cultivate our attributes. I heard that every attribute has its own guild. Among them, your light attribute has the highest status. It's called the Slight Light Sacred Guild. I'm afraid you'll have to join it. Bewitching had a warm and gentle smile on his face. The upper realm had existed for so many years, and many things were perfect. It was very easy to find organization. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Every attribute. Does that mean there are also dark guilds in your darkness-type guild? That's not it. Bewitching shook his head. You know how much the upper realm dislikes dark energy. Normally, dark energy practitioners don't even dare to admit their attributes. If it weren't for my talent being maxed out, I'm afraid my position in the Raging Flame sect would be very low as well. Hence, there is no dark guild in the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. It has all the attributes except for this one. This is too biased. Wife, since the upper realm doesn't have it, it doesn't mean we can't create one. Who knows? Maybe I'll create a dark guild in the future. Bewitching's face was filled with confidence and a charming luster. I promised Master that I'll change everyone's view of dark energy. I'll let dark energy practitioners no longer have to bear the strange gazes of others. This dark guild might be one of the most important steps. That's right. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded heavily. Her pitch-black bright eyes rippled with a bright light. I believe in you. You'll definitely be able to do it. Although this plan may be crazy in the eyes of others, Bailey Hongzhuang did not think that it was unattainable. Everything depends on effort. Chapter 43-47. Wife, thank you for believing in me. Bewitching gazed at the beautiful and fair face in front of him, and his eyes gradually softened. Everyone would think that he was crazy if he told them about his thoughts. Perhaps Hongzhuang was the only one who would believe him, as usual. Bewitching, I'm not comforting you. I really believe that you can do it. No, we can do it. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were serious. She always believed that there was nothing impossible in this world. Bewitching held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and nodded solemnly. We will definitely do it. Knock, knock. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching looked at each other and couldn't help but feel a little strange. In the entire Raging Flame school, the only people they were familiar with were Wan Yanhan and Yi Haomiao. However, the two of them had started cultivating in seclusion today and had only come to inform them in the morning. Obviously, they couldn't have come to find them at this time. Who could it be? As soon as they opened the door, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised to see a white figure. Junior Sister Bailey, I'm not disturbing you, am I? Xiao Roujin's face was filled with a warm and bright smile, and her voice was even more gentle and pleasant. Just listening to it made one's bones melt. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't expect Xiao Roujin to come find her. Logically speaking, her performance at the awakening ceremony was tantamount to stealing Xiao Roujin's limelight. Needless to say, Xiao Roujin's impression of her wouldn't be very good. After all, this was human nature. Moreover, Xiao Roujin had already determined that there were impurities in her attribute without carefully understanding her situation. It was clear that she was unwilling to admit how good others were. Now that she suddenly came to find her, she couldn't help but be vigilant. Senior Sister Xiao, I didn't expect you to come find me. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Her generous and decent appearance didn't reveal the slightest bit of her inner thoughts. May I ask why Senior Sister Xiao is looking for me? It's like this. You've already awakened a light attribute talent during the awakening ceremony. Before you came, I was the only light cultivator in the entire Raging Flame school. Ever since he found out that you're also a cultivator of the light attribute, and that your talent is almost at the maximum level, the sect master was very happy. He specially instructed me to bring you to the Holy Light Assembly to register. The smile on Xiao Rojin's face was gentle and charming. She spoke slowly and clearly. Her soft voice, coupled with her delicate and pretty face, really gave people a pleasing feeling. So, if Junior Sister Bailey is free now, why don't we make a trip to the Radiant Saint Assembly? After becoming a member of the Radiant Sacred Assembly, you will be able to obtain the cultivation method of the Radiant Force. You might not know this since you're new to the upper plane, but cultivating elemental energy is much more powerful than cultivating basic origin energy. I believe you'll like it. Looking at the gentle and lovely Xiao Rojin in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This Xiao Rojin really looked like a caring sister. Gentle, beautiful, and talented. No wonder she had so many suitors in the House of Raging Flames. Okay, then I'll have to trouble Senior Sister Xiao. You're welcome. We're all from the same sect, so this is what I should do. Xiao Rojin smiled gently. Then, Junior Sister, pack up and we'll set off. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang walked into the room and told Di Beichun the purpose of Xiao Rojin's visit. Chapter 43-48. Di Beichun warned Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Xiao Rojin looked harmless on the surface, he was not a superficial person who only looked at the surface. To be able to reach such a position in the Raging Flame school, she was definitely not an idiot. Sometimes the more harmless a person looked, the more shocking their methods were. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Don't worry, I understand. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was not careless, Di Beichun was relieved. Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiao Rojin's journey together immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators in the Raging Flame school. Everyone thought that Xiao Rojin and Bailey Hongzhuang would be like fire and water, but they did not expect to see the two of them chatting and laughing as they walked together. It was completely out of everyone's expectations. I thought that a fight would definitely break out between the two of them. I didn't think that they would get along so well. I knew that with Senior Sister Zhao's magnanimous personality, she definitely wouldn't argue with Bailey Hongzhuang over this matter. Isn't that great? The Raging Flame School has 2 light attribute cultivators. Speaking of which, we're also proud. You're right. Senior Sister Zhao's personality has always been very good. She doesn't put on airs. Although it's usually very difficult to get close to her, that doesn't stop me from admiring and liking her. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the discussions around her, and her eyes could not help but fall on Xiao Rojin. This woman's reputation in the Raging Flame School was very good. Basically, the majority of cultivators had a good impression of her. It was really not easy for her to reach this step. At the same time, she did not have any thoughts of competing with Xiao Rojin. She had only come here to cultivate properly. As long as others did not make trouble for her, she would definitely not take the initiative to provoke others. If they could get along so well, that would be pretty good. Senior Sister Xiao, do you know where a contracted beast needs to awaken their attributes? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Originally, she wanted to borrow it from Steward Wu, but after thinking about it, she felt that other people should also have contracted beasts that were undergoing attribute awakening. It was impossible for everyone to find a way to borrow the innate talent awakening machine. There should be a special place for it. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao Rojin's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Junior Sister Bailey, has your contracted beast reached the time to awaken its innate talent? I just happened to reach it. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Baisher's situation was no longer a secret in the Inferno sect. Many cultivators had already noticed it. Moreover, ever since the battle with Di Wen Tao, White Lion had already become famous. Junior Sister's method of nurturing contracted beasts is truly impressive. Xiao Rojin sighed. Wanting to nurture a contracted beast to the Starlight Realm is not a simple matter. It's truly admirable. Senior Sister Xiao, you flatter me. There is indeed a place in Rome in city where contracted beasts can undergo a tribute awakening, but they need to pay a certain fee. It just so happens that we will pass by that place on our way to the Holy Light Assembly. Why don't I point it out to you later? Thank you very much. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. It just so happened that she had earned some spirit stones from the D family, so she was very well off now. It would be more convenient to trouble Steward Wu. Chapter 43-49. Junior Sister Bailey, your talent in the light attribute is very powerful. It's almost maxed out. This matter has spread throughout the entire realm and city. Xiao Rojin sighed and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a bit of shame. When my talent awakened, I was at level 8. I originally thought that I was pretty good, but I didn't expect your level to be so amazing. In front of you, I really feel ashamed. Senior Sister Xiao, you flatter me. I was just lucky. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Before awakening, she didn't know that it would be like this. Junior Sister, you don't have to be so humble. If it weren't for some impurities when you awakened, you might have become the Holy Maiden of Light. You may not know, but as long as you're a maxed out light attribute cultivator, you can become the representative of the Holy Assembly. In fact, you're already maxed out, so it's not impossible for you to become the Holy Maiden of Light. Senior Sister, you also said that there are impurities in my talent. This so-called maxed out level is not really maxed out level. Besides, I don't have such big ambitions. This kind of existence is too far away from me. I just need to cultivate well. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferent. Ever since she guessed the situation with Di Beichun, she had no thoughts about being the Holy Maiden of Light. She didn't even have freedom, so what was the use of such a title? Xiao Rojin quietly looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing her calm expression and clear eyes, she also chuckled. Perhaps it's because Junior Sister has nothing else to ask for that the heavens are especially kind to you. Bailey Hongzhuang followed Xiao Rojin through the streets of Rome and city. In front of a building, Xiao Rojin stopped. Junior Sister Bailey, this is the place where contract beasts awaken. When the time comes, you can bring your contract beast here to awaken. Looking in the direction Xiao Rojin pointed, Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned by the words Talent Awakening on the signboard. A smile suddenly appeared on her lips. White Lion was now looking forward to the awakening of his talent. She was also curious about what kind of attribute White Lion would awaken. The two of them didn't stay here for long. Instead, they continued to walk for a while before stopping in front of Snow White Building. Under the sunlight, the white building exuded a holy light. The whole building was round and looked round and warm, just like the holy and comfortable feeling the power of light gave people. On the plaque at the front of the building, there were 4 majestic words written in gold. Holy Light Assembly. This is the Holy Light Assembly. I'll bring you in. You should come here often in the future. Xiao Rojin smiled gently and walked into the Holy Assembly with Bailey Hongzhuang. As soon as Bailey Hongzhuang entered the Holy Light Assembly, she felt that everything here was so bright, as if all the filth had nowhere to hide. At a glance, the people inside the building were all wearing white clothes. After seeing that the person who came was Xiao Rojin, many people's faces showed a smile. Xiao Rojin, why are you here today? A woman about the same age as Xiao Rojin slowly walked over. Her white clothes set off her fair and clear skin, and her facial features were exquisite and deep. Compared to Xiao Rojin's gentle and lovely appearance, she was more beautiful and flamboyant. Chapter 43-50. Junior Sister? Listening to Xiao Rojin's words, Jiang Qiantong's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, and then her eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. In fact, Jiang Qiantong had already noticed Bailey Hongzhuang from the moment she walked into the sacred assembly. Such a beautiful woman was bound to be a moving scene no matter where she went. It was impossible not to notice her. She even noticed Bailey Hongzhuang first before noticing her old rival, Xiao Rojin. Is this the cultivator with the full level of the light element that your School of Flames just discovered? Xiao Rojin nodded with a faint smile. Jiang Qiantong, you're quite well informed. You received the news so quickly. It's only been a few days since our school of flames talent awakened. Such a big piece of news has already spread throughout Rome and city in such a short time. Jiang Qiantong chuckled. We're all members of the Sacred Assembly. It's impossible not to notice this kind of news. You're right. Xiao Roujin's smile gradually widened. Her gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, and she said, in the past, we've always competed with each other. But this time is different. My junior sister's talent has reached the full level. If it weren't for the slight flaw, she might be the next saintess. Xiao Roujin raised her eyebrows slightly. She looked at Jiang Qiantong with a hint of pride. However, although there are slight flaws, it shouldn't be a problem. I think with my junior sister's talent and potential, it won't be long before she occupies a very important position in the Sacred Assembly. You have to be polite to her. Following Xiao Roujin's words, Jiang Qiantong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a hint of hostility and disdain. It's indeed very impressive to have the full level of talent. But since there are impurities, it's not really the full level. You'd better not be too arrogant. At the same time, many people from the Holy Assembly also heard Xiao Roujin's words and immediately came over. Ever since the news about the House of Raging Flame spread, everyone was filled with curiosity about Bailey Hongzhuang, who was known to be extremely talented. Apart from Miss Xiao, who was rumored to be the next Holy Maiden of the Light, they had never heard of such a level of talent. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was here, everyone naturally wanted to see who she was. However, after listening to Xiao Roujin's words, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a bit more displeasure. Jiang Qiantong is right. Although she is talented, she is still a newcomer from the lower world. It is not good for her to be so arrogant. At this time, another man came over, his handsome white face rippling with a faint smile, but his words were directly directed at Bailey Hongzhuang. Blue Flame, I didn't expect you to come to the Sacred Assembly today. After Xiao Roujin saw the blue flame, a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes. Blue Flame nodded. I happened to hear that Jiang Qiantong was here for the Sacred Assembly, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect to see a big shot who has been in the limelight recently. Chapter 43:51. Master, this is your first time in the Holy Assembly. Why are these guys targeting you? When Blackie saw this scene, he was also displeased. Master's talent was outstanding. Even if these people were envious, they shouldn't target her right from start. It was too ungracious. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a mocking light. She sneered in her heart. This is senior sister Zhao's trick. She's flattering me to death. Flattering you to death? Xiao He was stunned. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang said in a low voice. On the surface, she didn't say anything bad about me. Every word she said was praising me. However, she deliberately mentioned the Holy Maiden and reminded everyone to be careful with their attitude towards me. In this way, everyone won't think that it's her idea. On the contrary, everyone will think that it's all my idea. I'm just a newcomer. I just came to the upper realm. I don't know anything yet. I'm so arrogant. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't like me under such circumstances. She was wondering why Xiao Roujin was so kind. It turned out that this was the main point. She took the initiative to bring her to the Holy Assembly. On the surface, it seemed like she was taking care of her junior sister. In fact, she was here to help her create a group of enemies. It was really a good trick. Xiao Hei's face turned ugly when she understood all this. Master, what should we do? We can't just suffer like this, right? It's not worth it. Ordinary people may suffer in such a situation. However, it doesn't mean that I can only suffer in silence. A cold light flashed in Bailey Hongzhuang's dark eyes. However, she didn't show it on her face. Was she praising people? It wasn't like she didn't know how to do it. I'm just a newcomer. To be honest, I came from the lower realm. There are many things in the upper realm that I don't know. Although I just awakened my talent during the awakening ceremony, I know my identity very well. I won't overstep my boundaries. Bailey Hongzhuang lowered her voice. Her delicate little face was full of worry and uneasiness. It was obvious that she was frightened by what Jiang Qiantong and Bailey Hongzhuang had said. As the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin could not help but look at each other. The dissatisfaction in their eyes suddenly dissipated and was replaced by a trace of doubt. She had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was a self-righteous person, but judging from her behavior, it didn't seem like that. Naturally, they had already heard that Bailey Hongzhuang came from the lower realm. However, most people wouldn't be willing to talk about such a background. However, Bailey Hongzhuang actually took the initiative to talk about it. It could be seen that she wasn't an arrogant person, because if she really thought she was infallible, then she would never reveal her weakness. Suddenly, the way Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin looked at Xiao Rojin became strange. Bailey Hongzhuang had already made it clear that she didn't know anything about the upper realm. Naturally, she wouldn't think too much about it. In this way, what Xiao Rojin said might not be Bailey Hongzhuang's idea, but her own. Xiao Rojin's face turned pale. She didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to say something like that. Naturally, she understood that Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin already knew something. Chapter 4352. Actually, I've always wanted to learn from Senior Sister Xiao, but I didn't have the chance to get close to her. Today, Senior Sister Xiao is the first one to talk to me, and she even took the initiative to bring me to the Holy Assembly. I'm really surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Xiao Rojin, her pretty face full of admiration. I already knew when I joined the Blazing Flame School that Senior Sister Xiao is the disciple with the highest status in the school. I'm most happy to have the opportunity to learn from Senior Sister Xiao. Senior Sister Xiao also said that she would take good care of me. Before I came, I really didn't expect that the Senior Sister from the upper world would be so nice. I will definitely learn humbly and won't be arrogant. Seniors, you can rest assured. If Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin had some doubts before, after listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, the two of them no longer had any doubts. It turned out that today was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang talked to Xiao Rojin, and it was Xiao Rojin who took the initiative to bring her here. Since she was a girl who didn't know anything, she probably didn't know anything about the current situation of the Holy Assembly, let alone the saintess of the Holy Assembly. Xiao Rojin, I didn't expect that after not seeing you for a while, you're still as insidious as before. Jiang Qiantong looked at Xiao Rojin with a chuckle, her expression full of disdain. She's just a little sister who just came from the lower world and doesn't know anything. How can you treat her like this? Your tolerance is really surprising. She had been fighting with Xiao Rojin for a long time, and she knew her character very well. This fellow usually looked gentle and kind, but she knew very well that Xiao Rojin's heart was very sinister. Back then, she didn't see that, so she suffered a big loss at Xiao Rojin's hands. I don't understand what you're talking about. Xiao Rojin looked confused. I'm telling the truth. The truth is the truth. However, if you want me to help you, then you've made a mistake in your calculations. She's from the Blazing Flame School. If she wants to threaten you, she'll threaten your position. It has nothing to do with me for now. Jiang Qiantong put her hands in front of her chest, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Now, there was a good show to watch. Lan Yin shrugged. I don't understand the things between you women. I still have things to do, so I'll leave first. Lan Yin, wait. Seeing Lan Yin was about to leave, Jiang Qiantong couldn't help but stop him. I'll go with you. After Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin left, the way Xiao Rojin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang changed, but she soon smiled again. Junior Sister Bailey, I was just trying to raise the morale of our Raging Flame School in front of them. You're a cultivator with max-level talent, and your position in the Holy Light Assembly won't be simple. Their sects are our competitors, so I'm afraid we'll run into them often in the future. Jiang Qiantong said that just to drive a wedge between us. Don't be fooled. Looking at the speed at which Xiao Rojin's expression changed, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed in her heart. The speed at which this woman changed her expression was indeed extraordinary. She was obviously furious, but she could still smile so gently on the surface. It was really not easy. Senior Sister Xiao, I understand. I'll listen to you, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Xiao Rojin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, and her heart was also complicated. She didn't understand whether Bailey Hongzhuang's performance at the moment was fake or serious. Chapter 43:53. After Jiang Qiantong and Lan Yin left, Xiao Rojin took Bailey Hongzhuang to the second floor of the Holy Light Assembly. The news of your talent awakening has spread very quickly. The people of the Holy Light Assembly have already noticed you. I'll take you to register your information first, and then find the vice president to take you to receive the martial arts technique. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Sorry to trouble you, senior sister. There were not many light attribute cultivators, so there were not many people in the Holy Light Assembly at the moment. After successfully registering her information, Bailey Hongzhuang received her own robe and name tag. From now on, she was a member of the Holy Light Assembly. Then, Xiao Rojin and Bailey Hongzhuang stopped in front of the door. Knock, knock. Xiao Rojin knocked twice and said softly, Vice President, I brought Bailey Hongzhuang to report. Please come in. The door opened, and Xiao Rojin and Bailey Hongzhuang walked in together. Bailey Hongzhuang found a woman in her 40s sitting in the room. She was wearing a white robe of the Holy Light Assembly, and her hair was neatly combed. She looked serious and serious. With just one look, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly was a very old-fashioned person. Vice President. Xiao Rojin and Bailey Hongzhuang bowed together. Gong Tianfeng raised her head and looked at the two people in front of her. This is the light attribute cultivator with the highest level of talent in the Raging Flames sect? Yes, that's her. Xiao Rojin replied. I'm Bailey Hongzhuang. Greetings, Vice President. Bailey Hongzhuang cupped her hands. Gong Tianfeng nodded slightly. Very good. It's very rare to see someone with the highest level of talent. Your light attribute talent is so strong. It shows that you and the Holy Light Assembly are fated. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and did not comment. Xiao Rojin, you go out first. I want to talk to Bailey Hongzhuang alone. Hearing this, Xiao Rojin's expression was slightly stunned. Although she wanted to say something more, she could only leave. Yes. After the door closed, Gong Tianfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again and said, Welcome to the Holy Light Assembly. Thank you, Vice President. You're welcome. It's a joyous occasion for the Holy Assembly to have a talent like you join us. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to Gong Tianfeng's words and secretly cursed in her heart. The Vice President said so many words, but she didn't know what she was really trying to say to her. She was very clear that although her talent was indeed not bad, Gong Tianfeng definitely did not keep her here just to welcome her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to drive Xiao Rojin out. I heard that you're already married? Suddenly, Gong Tianfeng changed the topic and asked. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I didn't expect you to be married at such a young age. This is really unexpected. Huh? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. For cultivators, she was indeed married at an early age. However, as far as she knew, there were many people who were married at this age. The person you're married to seems to have awakened the darkness attribute. Gong Tianfeng's eyes stared straight at Bailey Hongzhuang, staring in her eyes as if she wanted to see through everything about her, see through her. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. For some reason, when Gong Tianfeng asked this question, she had a bad premonition in her heart. Chapter 43:54. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's affirmative answer, Gong Tianfeng's expression turned cold. You should know that the light attribute is the most respected attribute in the upper realm, while the dark attribute is the most unpopular. The dark attribute is dark, cold, and icy. It's completely different from our light attribute. Most people who awaken the dark attribute are more sinister. When she heard this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but frown and interrupt Gong Tianfeng. Vice President, the awakened attribute doesn't seem to have anything to do with one's personality, right? Attributes, weren't things like that random? She could not understand why the vice president would link attributes with human nature. This was too ridiculous. Just based on Bewitching, this point could be completely overturned. However, seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang refuted her words, Gong Tianfeng's tone became more serious. How is it not related? There must be a connection between the two. This can be seen from the war back then. If it weren't for the dark attributes, sinister personality, why would they do such a thing? Vice President, there are all kinds of birds in the sea. There are good and bad cultivators of every attribute. What happened back then was because there were some exceptions among the dark attribute cultivators. They were indeed in the wrong. But now, your words have overturned a whole boat of people. You seem to disagree with my judgment. Gong Tianfeng's face suddenly became serious. She looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gaze full of dissatisfaction. We've always thought so. That's why the dark attribute cultivators in the upper realm are like rats crossing the street. I hope you can change your mind from today onwards. Master, why is this vice president so strange? From the looks of it, she seems to have a deep hatred for dark energy practitioners. I wonder who has offended her. Xiaohei could not help but complain through telepathy. It thought that there was something important that made its master stay, but it did not expect that it was just nonsense. It was really speechless. Who knows? Bailey Hongzhuang was also speechless. Maybe she's been in a high position for too long and thinks that her thoughts are right. She's used to everyone listening to her. We don't have to care about her. Just keep quiet. She knew very well that no matter what she said, she would not be able to achieve any effect on a person like the vice president. Since that was the case, it would be better to keep quiet and not provoke her. After all, she still wanted to obtain the light attribute cultivation method from the Holy Assembly. There was no benefit in offending the vice president. After seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not refute, Gong Tianfeng's expression softened a little. However, her next words made Bailey Hongzhuang dumbfounded. Since you're marrying a dark attribute cultivator, I don't think that you're suited for each other. You're a max-level light attribute cultivator. In the future, you will have a high honor in our radiant sacred assembly. If everyone knows that you are together with a dark attribute cultivator, it will affect everyone's impression of the radiant sacred assembly. Moreover, I heard that he's a dark attribute cultivator. From the looks of it, his thoughts must be even darker. It's better for you to leave him earlier. Chapter 4355. Facing Gong Tianfeng's self-righteous appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that it was ridiculous. Is there something wrong with this woman's brain? As the saying goes, one would rather tear down a temple than a marriage. This woman actually wants me to break up with Beichen. Who does she think she is? Vice President, I know better than you whether my husband and I are suitable for each other. You don't have to worry about it. Bailey Hongzhuang spat out the words, don't have to worry about it. If it wasn't for the fact that this woman was the vice president of the Holy Light Assembly, she would have scolded her. After roaming the world for so many years, she had seen many strange people, but no one was as strange as this woman in front of her. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang didn't seem to take her words to heart, Gong Tianfeng couldn't help but frown. Her already serious face became even more serious. Bailey Hongzhuang, I'm saying this for your own good. Then I'll have to thank the vice president for her good intentions. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was cold, and her beautiful face was filled with a trace of coldness. Gong Tianfeng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and knew what she was thinking. She immediately raised her voice and said unhappily, if you want to join the Holy Light Assembly, you must sever your relationship with people with the dark attribute. Otherwise, our Holy Light Assembly will not accept you. Following Gong Tianfeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyes. Her tightly knitted brows were starting to slip. I didn't know that the Holy Light Assembly would have such a rule. I've seen people who don't discriminate, but this is the first time I've seen such discrimination. Vice Guild Leader, do you judge people based on their attributes? Then what about cultivators with the gold, wood, water, fire, and earth attributes? Let's not talk about cultivators with the other attributes for now. In short, we can't accept cultivators with the dark attribute. then there's nothing to say. Bailey Hongzhuang's face turned cold. Gong Tianfeng's face suddenly became incomparably ugly in her eyes. What do you mean by this? Gong Tianfeng frowned and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with dissatisfaction. She was very dissatisfied with his attitude. Whatever you think it means is what it means. Bailey Hongzhuang said coldly. Pay attention to your attitude. My attitude? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and sneered. Anyway, I'm not going to join your Holy Light Assembly. Do you want me to treat you like a vice president? As soon as he said that, Gong Tianfeng's expression changed. She frowned and asked coldly, What did you say? I said I don't plan to join the Holy Light Assembly. Bailey Hongzhuang emphasized again, her tone firm and resolute. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and walked out of the house. What kind of attitude is this? Gong Tianfeng said angrily. However, the only response she got was the sound of the door slamming shut. Xiao Rojin had been waiting outside the house. When she suddenly saw Bailey Hongzhuang walk out of the house like this, her eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Junior sister Bailey, what's wrong with you? Nothing. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I didn't expect the threshold of the Holy Light Assembly to be so strange. I'm afraid I'm not fated to be here. Wait a moment. I'll go ask the vice president. Xiao Rojin couldn't help but say. No need. Chapter 43:56. Master, are we leaving the Holy Light Assembly just like that? Xiao He had a complicated look on her face. She knew that under such circumstances, her master would definitely make such a choice. However, leaving the Holy Light Assembly meant that her master would not be able to obtain the method to cultivate the power of light in the future. This was a huge problem in the upper realm. Now, everyone was cultivating their elemental powers. As long as they joined the guild, they would be able to obtain the cultivation method. However, her master had rejected her just like that. Based on her understanding of her master, she would definitely not turn back. If we don't leave, are we waiting to quarrel with that old hag? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Her voice was filled with disdain and disgust. She had never seen such a detestable old hag. Every word that came out of her mouth was detestable. If she did not leave now, she did not doubt that she would quarrel with the old hag if she continued to stay there. But if that's the case, you won't have the method to cultivate the power of light, master. Xiao He lowered her voice. Her round face was filled with concern. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There will always be a way. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. Her expression was indifferent and indifferent. She believed that there would always be a way out. There would always be a way. Besides, it was already impossible for her to separate from Bewitching. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiao He understood that her master had made up her mind. She immediately nodded. That's right. There will definitely be a way. I believe that not everyone in the Holy Light Assembly is like this detestable old hag. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's right. Let's go back first. Let's not talk about this vice president anymore. Just talking about her makes me sick. After Xiao Rojin saw Bailey Hongzhuang, she walked into the vice president's room. She was also very confused. Before Bailey Hongzhuang came here, the president and vice president had always been looking forward to Bailey Hongzhuang's arrival. After all, a light attribute cultivator with such talent was a great resource for the Holy Light Assembly. It was because of this that she took the initiative to bring Bailey Hongzhuang here. On one hand, she could show her generosity to the cultivators of the Blazing Flame School. On the other hand, she could leave a good impression on the president and vice president. She just didn't expect things to turn out this way after Bailey Hongzhuang entered the room and chatted with the vice president for a while. It was really beyond her expectations. Vice President, what happened? Xiao Rojin looked at Gong Tianfeng in confusion. No matter how she guessed, she couldn't figure out what could make Bailey Hongzhuang decide to give up joining the Holy Assembly. This Bailey Hongzhuang is simply rotten wood that cannot be carved. Gong Tianfeng's anger still hadn't subsided. She had been the vice president for so many years, but she had never seen a light attribute cultivator as arrogant as Bailey Hongzhuang. She actually dared to directly contradict her and show disdain for the Radiant Sacred Assembly. She was simply angered to death. I only asked her to leave that dark attribute man of hers. She actually refused to join the Radiant Assembly. Simply unreasonable. Hearing this, Xiaorojin immediately understood. A trace of joy quietly appeared in the depths of her eyes. Actually, she didn't really want Bailey Hongzhuang to join the Holy Light Assembly. If that happened, her position would definitely be replaced by Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 43:57. She didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would encounter such a problem when she joined the Holy Light Assembly. As a result, her original worries naturally dissipated. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang didn't join the Holy Light Assembly, she wouldn't be able to obtain the cultivation method of light energy. In that case, no matter how strong her light attribute talent was, it would be meaningless. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was originally envied by everyone, was suddenly in the same situation as Bewitching. Both of them had max-level talent, but neither of them had a cultivation method. It was really interesting. Vice President Bailey Hongzhuang and her husband have always had a good relationship. In the Raging Flames sect, the two of them are known as the Golden Boy and Jade Girl. They are a pair that everyone envies. Gong Tianfeng sneered. Golden Boy and Jade Girl? What a joke. How can a light attribute cultivator be together with a dark attribute cultivator? From the day their attributes were different, they were no longer on the same side. Xiaorojin revealed a difficult expression, but according to my understanding, it's impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan to separate. Their feelings for each other are very deep. No matter what happens, it's impossible for them to separate. Love is stronger than gold. Gong Tianfeng's smile contained a bit of ridicule. When I was young, I was very fearless, so I thought so. Just wait and see. When the time comes, Bailey Hongzhuang will definitely come back and ask to join the Holy Light Assembly. She won't give up on cultivating the light attribute just like that. Hearing this, Xiaorojin looked at Gong Tianfeng with a complicated gaze. She had always known that the vice president had a cold personality and didn't care about feelings, but she didn't expect that the vice president would ask Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan to separate. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was so firm. Most people would make such a decision. However, in this way, Bailey Hongzhuang would be giving up her future. If Bailey Hongzhuang comes back at that time, will the Holy Light Assembly accept her? Xiaorojin asked tentatively. Gong Tianfeng paused for a moment, then said, when the time comes, it will depend on her attitude. She was so determined today. I wonder what kind of expression she will have when the time comes. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the Blazing Flame School, she acted as if nothing had happened. It was just a cultivation method, so it didn't matter if she didn't have it. However, without Di Beichan, she couldn't bear it. Wife, is there something on your mind? Di Beichan stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had been with Bailey Hongzhuang for a long time, so he knew Bailey Hongzhuang's character very well. Although she didn't show it, he could tell from some details. No. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, and a gentle smile appeared on her beautiful face. You've been acting a little strange ever since you came back from the Holy Light Assembly. I saw it. What happened? Can't you tell me? Di Beichan's eyes were deep and gentle. Let me guess. Something that can make you unhappy, and at the same time, you're unwilling to tell me. Could it be that when you went to the Holy Light Assembly, someone mentioned my darkness attribute? As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart also sighed. Di Beichan's observation had always been amazing. This matter is a little complicated. Chapter 43:58. As soon as they opened the door, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichan saw Wanyan Han and Yi Haomiao's anxious expressions. Junior sister, I heard that you refused to join the Holy Assembly. As soon as the door was opened, Wanyan Han couldn't help but ask the question in his heart. As Wanyan Han's voice fell, Di Beichan's eyes suddenly changed. Even if he thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's trip to the Holy Assembly might not be pleasant, He did not expect that it would be to the extent of refusing to join the Holy Assembly. Yes, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It's not a big deal. Hongzhuang, you're too calm. Yi Hao Miao couldn't help but sigh when he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent expression. Do you know that only the Holy Assembly has the method to cultivate the light energy? Even light elemental cultivators were not allowed to teach others their cultivation methods without the permission of the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Since you refuse to join the Holy Assembly, it means that you won't have the method to cultivate the light energy in the future. I know. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her expression was still indifferent. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's indifferent expression, Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao were a little anxious. Do you really understand? If you refuse like this, you definitely won't be able to keep up with everyone's cultivation speed in the future. If you stay in the upper realm, you won't have any room for improvement. You're giving up your bright future. I know. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Thank you for your concern, but I've already made up my mind. Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao were puzzled. They couldn't understand why Bailey Hongzhuang was so determined. Can you tell us why? Wang Yanhan couldn't help but ask. If it's because of some unhappiness during your trip to the Holy Assembly, you can bear with it for the time being. After all, your future is the most important. It's already in the past. Why bring it up again? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Actually, it's not a big deal not to cultivate. I'm also an inscriptionist. If I want to gain a foothold in the upper realm, it might be faster to use my identity as an inscriptionist. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had already made up her mind, Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao sighed. Although we don't know what happened, since you've already made your decision, we'll support you. Thank you. After sending Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao away, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Di Beichun. I'll cultivate the dark energy with you from now on. Others didn't know that she had awakened two attributes, but Di Beichun knew. Even if she couldn't cultivate the power of light, she could still cultivate the power of darkness with Di Beichun. Although her talent in the dark energy was slightly lacking. So what? Di Beichun took a deep look at Bailey Hongzhuang. In the end, he decided not to ask about the reason. He understood the importance of cultivation for Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for something that touched her bottom line, she would never have made such a choice. Since Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't willing to say, he wouldn't ask anymore. Okay, let's cultivate the dark energy together. Di Beichun smiled and nodded. Chapter 43:59. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang decided not to join the Radiant Sacred Assembly, all the cultivators in the Sect of Flames were dumbfounded. They all thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had really gone mad. She had actually given up such a great opportunity. With her talent for the element of light, her status would definitely surpass most cultivators in the future if she joined the Radiant Sacred Assembly. This was an opportunity that everyone envied. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had actually given up under such circumstances. Giving up on the element of light meant that not only would Bailey Hongzhuang not have the opportunity to surpass ordinary people, but she would also end up at the bottom of the upper world in the future. Under such circumstances, everyone was extremely curious about her decision to leave the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Immediately, many people began to investigate the reason. There was strength in numbers. Before long, everyone discovered the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang did not want to join the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Before, I thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had gone mad for making a decision like that. But now that I know the reason, I suddenly understand her. Yeah, I never thought that the Radiant Sacred Assembly's conditions would be so harsh. She can only join if she leaves Di Beichun. It really is difficult to make a decision like that. Bailey Hongzhuang really does have deep feelings for Di Beichun. She's willing to give up her future for him. At that moment, the cultivators of the Sect of Flames could not help but shake their heads and sigh. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have to make such a huge decision. Moreover, Bailey Hongzhuang's decision was so firm. All of his confusion instantly turned into understanding. Everyone understood Bailey Hongzhuang's situation. They just felt that it was a pity. Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao originally did not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang would make a decision like that. However, after understanding the reason, the two of them understood. They never thought that there would be a problem like that. Aren't the Radiant Sacred Assembly's conditions a little too strange? Yi Haomiao looked puzzled. You want to break them up just because of their attributes? Are you crazy? The Holy Light Assembly has always been the dominant force in the upper realm. Perhaps they're used to being arrogant, so even this request is different from the rest. Wang Yanhan shook his head. I should have thought about it. Based on Junior Sister's character, she would never give up on her future unless something crossed her bottom line. There's nothing we can do about it now. If it were any other reason, there might still be room for negotiation. However, there's nothing we can do about it now. Yi Haomiao spread out his hands. With little Junior Sister and Di Beichen's relationship, it's impossible for them to be separated. Therefore, when the Holy Light Assembly made such a request, little Junior Sister has no fate with the Holy Light Assembly. However, just as Junior Sister said, she is also an inscription master. It won't be a problem for her to gain a foothold in the upper realm. Yi Haomiao nodded slightly. His face was filled with joy. Fortunately, Hong Zhuang has such an identity. Otherwise, it would really be terrible. Similarly, after this matter spread, everyone was puzzled by the Holy Light Assembly's request. Chapter 4360. My dear wife, I already know the reason. Di Beichen slowly walked into the room. His handsome face was full of guilt and heartache. I've wronged you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and shook her head. What kind of grievance is this? I'm just not joining the Holy Light Assembly. It's not a big deal. My dear wife, not joining the Holy Light Assembly will have a great impact on your path of cultivation. Di Beichan said in a low voice. He knew how important the path of cultivation was to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now that she had given it up so freely, it was all for his sake. So you mean you want to separate from me? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and asked. No. Di Beichen's eyes suddenly darkened. He pulled Bailey Hongzhuang over and kissed her deeply. It was not until Bailey Hongzhuang was out of breath that his voice rang out again. I will never allow you to leave me. Di Beichen was very strong and domineering. It was as if he wanted to rub Bailey Hongzhuang into his bones. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a little pain, but the smile on her face gradually widened. So, this is the right decision. Actually, we're not the ones who will lose the most. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang. A cold light flashed across his ink-black, jade-like eyes. The one who will lose the most is the Holy Light Assembly. It's a loss for any force to miss a genius like my wife. You think so highly of me. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with happiness. In fact, as long as Di Beichen was with her, everything else was not a problem. My wife is the best. When the time comes, they will definitely regret it. Di Beichen's eyes were serious. He didn't look like he was trying to comfort or joke. He believed that this day wouldn't be too far away. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and rested her chin on Di Beichen's shoulder. Let's cultivate the power of darkness together. We'll impress everyone in the future. All right. After Wu Wenfeng found out about this matter, he only felt that his enthusiasm was suddenly splashed with cold water. Originally, he was still immersed in the joy of discovering such a genius light attribute cultivator for the School of Flames. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would give up on joining the Radiant Sacred Assembly in the blink of an eye? This was quite a blow to him. Steward Wu, if you want to say something, just get straight to the point. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved into a calm and polite smile as she spoke slowly. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Wu Wenfeng knew that she already knew what he was going to say. Bailey Hongzhuang, I've already heard about what happened to you at the Radiant Sacred Assembly. Wu Wenfeng's voice was low. Do you really think it's worth it? His wise and sharp eyes looked straight at Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though he already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had rejected the Radiant Sacred Assembly, he still wanted to ask again. Was it worth it? Was she really willing to give up this rare opportunity when she could have shone so brightly? It's worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang faced Wu Wenfeng's gaze. Her voice was firm and her expression was calm. After knowing about this matter, everyone seemed to like to ask her this question. However, no matter how many people asked or how many times she asked, her answer would not change. After noticing the unwavering determination in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Wu Wenfeng already understood. However, a complicated feeling arose in his heart. Chapter 43:61. Since you're so determined, I won't try to persuade you anymore. A smile appeared on Wu Wenfeng's face once again. Actually, after knowing about this matter, I've already thought of a way. However, according to the vice president of the Light Guild, I'm afraid she won't change her mind. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Similar things have happened before? Have they been separated by the vice president? Although the possibility of a light and dark attribute cultivator being a couple was not very high, it was still possible. However, she did not expect the vice president to insist on this. They were separated, Wu Wenfeng slowly said. I didn't expect them to be separated so easily. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. She could understand that in the upper realm where strength spoke louder than words, some cultivators would indeed make such a decision. However, this also proved that their feelings for each other were not deep enough. Otherwise, they would not have separated just like that. She could not judge who was right and who was wrong. She was just a little emotional. The one who was separated is not someone else, but herself. Following Wu Wenfeng's words, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Her eyes instantly widened, and her beautiful face was filled with a strange luster. Herself, that's right. Wu Wenfeng nodded. Back then, Gong Tianfeng's husband was also a dark attribute cultivator. Previously, when they were together, their relationship was also very good. However, after Gong Tianfeng found out that she was a light attribute cultivator and her husband was a dark attribute cultivator, she completely ended their relationship. When this news first spread, everyone sighed. Until now, we have to say that Gong Tianfeng is indeed ruthless. It's really unbelievable. Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. It's just a matter of attributes. She just had to escalate it to a problem of human nature. I really can't understand her thinking. Master, I also think that this kind of woman deserves to be alone for the rest of her life. Xiaohei could not help but speak up. Previously, it had thought that Gong Tianfeng was talking nonsense when she asked its master to separate from Bewitching. Now, it felt that this woman was a complete pervert. How could he still be so cold-blooded when such a thing happened to her? The other party must be blind to fall in love with her. I think so too. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded quietly. From her appearance, I can tell that she must still be alone at such an old age. This Gong Tianfeng is indeed ruthless, but she is also a character. Wu Wenfeng shook his head and sighed. In fact, Gong Tianfeng's talent in the light attribute isn't very outstanding, but she fought her way out of the encirclement and became the vice president of Roman City. This isn't easy. Now, she's asking you to separate from Bewitching, or else you won't be allowed to join the Holy Light Assembly. I'm afraid that even if the sect leader goes to discuss with her, he won't get a good result. I understand. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. This person is very inflexible. He won't be moved by force or persuasion. Basically, it's useless no matter what you say. That's right. In the Holy Light Assembly of Rome and City, the person that everyone wants to avoid offending the most is her. Because once you provoke her, it will be really troublesome. Chapter 43:62. Since you've already made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. You have your own persistence. Wu Wenfeng also nodded. He knew that there was no point in continuing this matter. Bailey Hongzhuang's bottom line was here. Unless the Holy Assembly's request changed, all of this was unshakable. As this matter spread, many people were quite dissatisfied with Gong Tianfeng's request. Many people even went to ask, feeling that such a request was too unreasonable. Vice President, Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude hasn't changed, but our sect master wants to visit you. Xiao Rojin looked at Gong Tianfeng in front of her. She didn't expect things to get to this point. Most importantly, she didn't expect that the sect master would come to see Gong Tianfeng for Bailey Hongzhuang. It was obvious how much importance the sect master attached to Bailey Hongzhuang. Your sect master? Gong Tianfeng's expression remained serious. Even if he comes, there's no room for negotiation. This Bailey Hongzhuang, I know she's narrow-minded. In such a short time, she has already spread the news, as if I'm in the wrong. A dog biting Lu Dongbin. She doesn't know how to appreciate kindness. I'm doing this for her own good. It's fine if she doesn't appreciate it, but she actually spread rumors everywhere. How hateful. In the past 2 days, no matter where she went, she could feel that people were talking about her. This feeling undoubtedly made her feel very unhappy. Seeing Gong Tianfeng's determined look, Xiao Rojin felt a little more at ease. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang didn't join the Holy Assembly, her wings would be broken, and her status in the Raging Flames sect would never be comparable to hers. Junior Sister Bailey is indeed in the wrong, but her talent is indeed very outstanding. If she doesn't join the Holy Assembly, it's indeed a pity. What's there to pity? Gong Tianfeng looked disdainful. There are many talented cultivators in this world, but not all of them can succeed in the end. Everything depends on one's own efforts and performance. Just like me, my talent isn't outstanding, but didn't I surpass many cultivators who were more talented than me? Rojin, I know you're kind-hearted and want to help Bailey Hongzhuang, but there's no need to talk about this anymore. Seeing this, Xiao Rojin's expression was filled with helplessness. Vice President, since you've decided, I won't say anything more. Don't get angry because of this matter. After all, your mind. Hearing this, Gong Tianfeng smiled and nodded. I understand. Cultivate well. I have high hopes for you. In the future, you will definitely stand out. Thank you, Vice President. After Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the house, she and Di Bei Chun began to retreat. Now, they had given up on the cultivation of the light attribute. Anyway, they could still cultivate the dark attribute. In addition, Di Bei Chun had an inheritance. If they cultivated from this aspect, they may have better results. After adding elemental talent, the control of elemental energy will be more biased. The characteristic of dark energy is that it's silent, but it can kill in one strike. Di Beichen slowly told Bailey Hongzhuang what he knew. Before cultivating, Bailey Hongzhuang had to have a more comprehensive understanding of dark energy. Chapter 4363. After understanding its characteristics, Bailey Hongzhuang finally understood the power of elemental power. Previously, the cultivation of essence energy was purely destructive. However, the power of elemental power allowed many more possibilities for combat. Ingenious use of elemental power's characteristics could very likely result in unexpected results. The essence energy in our bodies has no elemental power now, so we have to take advantage of this opportunity to transform it into dark power, Di Beichun explained seriously. However, this process requires a lot of spirit stones. It just so happens that we extorted a sum of money from the Di family previously. We can use it now. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. The Di family could be considered to have kept their word and returned the remaining 50,000 spirit stones. As she said that, Bailey Hongzhuang took out the spirit stones from her heaven-earth bag. However, just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were about to start using the spirit stones, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly frowned. Wait, is there a problem? Di Beichun's eyes narrowed. There was only one possibility for Bailey Hongzhuang to stop at this time. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the spirit stones in her hands. I can smell a faint scent on these spirit stones. Although it is almost indiscernible, I am still certain that it exists. Spirit stones have always had no scent. If there's a scent on them, it means that they have tampered with them. Di Beichun put down the spirit stones in his hands. He knew how sensitive Bailey Hongzhuang's sense of smell was. She had always been able to detect drugs immediately. It seems like the D family is indeed dishonest. They actually tampered with these spirit stones. A cold glint appeared in her pitch-black phoenix eyes. She had long had a bad impression of the D family, but she had never thought that they would actually think of tampering with them here. I think they had already thought of this when they decided to hand over the spirit stones, so they came prepared. If you were not proficient in medical skills, I'm afraid that an ordinary person would have fallen into their trap. They thought that we would not be able to use these spirit stones this way. Unfortunately, the target is me. Give me some time, and I'll be able to solve this problem. Bewitching nodded slightly. Wife, your medical skills have always been praised. At the same time, DeVows and the others were also waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to have a problem. However, after waiting for a long time, there was no news. Logically speaking, we've already given the spirit stones to Bailey Hongzhuang for such a long time. It should have taken effect long ago. DeVows frowned. Ever since he heard from Di Sudong that he had tampered with the spirit stones, he had been waiting for news. However, he didn't expect that after waiting here for so long, there was still no news. It really made him feel helpless. That shouldn't be the case. Di Sudong was also puzzled. Could it be that they haven't used our spirit stones for so long? It can't be. DeVows was a little doubtful. An ordinary person wouldn't be able to resist taking out so many spirit stones to have a look. If they haven't taken them out, then Bailey Hongzhuang and the others are too patient. Let's wait a little longer. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang has refused to join the Holy Light Assembly, this is extremely good news for us. A smile appeared on Di Sudong's face once again. Originally, when they had found out that Bailey Hongzhuang's light attribute talent was so outstanding, they had been worried for a while. Chapter 4364. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang found out that there was a problem with the Spirit Stone, she began to deal with the poison on the Spirit Stone. The poisons in the upper realm were all strange. Many of them had changed in the past 1,000 years, but they were still the same. Bailey Hongzhuang was still able to deal with them easily. Beichun, I've already understood the poison, but I still need to go out and buy some herbs to make the antidote. Why don't you come with me? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and looked at Di Beichun. Xiao Rojin told me the place where contract beasts can awaken their innate talents. Why don't we take Baishur to test its innate talent today? Di Beichun nodded and looked at her lovingly. Okay. Baishur was also excited when he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to take him to awaken his innate talent. That's great, master. Bailey Hongzhuang rubbed Baishur's head. He had become more and more muscular. Just looking at his appearance was enough to make many people gasp in amazement. He was no longer the cute little guy from before, but a majestic beast king. A beast king that both humans and contract beasts would fear at first glance. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun walked out of the House of Raging Flames together. They were now the most eye-catching couple in the House of Raging Flames. However, after everyone knew that the two of them had such a deep relationship, many people gave them their heartfelt blessings. Not long after, the two of them arrived at the place where contract beasts' innate talents were tested. Everything here was very simple. One only needed to pay a sufficient fee to awaken their contract beasts. However, after understanding the price, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but sigh. The price was really unusually high. Even though she had already expected that the price would not be cheap, this price was really amazing. Although the price here is a little expensive, everything here is very secretive. Moreover, the contract beast's attributes will not be leaked. In this aspect, they do a good job. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in the secret room, looking around at the closed room, her pretty face showing a satisfied look. The upper realm is different from the lower realm. Here, the dark attribute is disliked by the people. In order to prevent the news of the dark attribute from spreading, the upper realm is well hidden. What's more, to be able to raise a contracted beast to the point of awakening, one must have a lot of financial and material resources. Such a person must have a lot of financial resources, so it's normal for the shop to want to make a profit. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. So, we can only be the spendthrifts. It can't be helped. Di Beichin chuckled. But my wife, you're already rich. You flatter me. When White Lion awakened his talent, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichin immediately fell silent. They looked at White Lion with concern, wondering what kind of attribute White Lion would awaken. White Lion was fully focused on awakening his talent. Xiao He and Xiao Bai also looked at him curiously. Now that their talents had been awakened, only White Lion was left. I wonder what kind of attribute White Lion will awaken. Will it be the same as mine? Xiao Hei's eyes shone with interest. But I hope that White Lion won't be the same as mine. Otherwise, White Lion won't be able to cultivate properly. Originally, awakening the light attribute was something to be happy about. But now that Master refused to join the Holy Light Assembly, they did not have the cultivation method of the light attribute. Chapter 43:65. Xiao He, don't worry. Sooner or later, there will be a way to cultivate the power of light. Xiao Bai understood Xiao Hei's thoughts the best. They had been together for so many years and understood each other's personalities very well. They could understand each other's thoughts just by looking at their expressions. Xiao He nodded slightly. I also believe that there will be a way. However, although staying in the Raging Flame sect is more secure, opponents may appear at any time. The D family is still eyeing us covetously. If we can't increase our powers, we won't be able to help Master. Therefore, I hope that White Lion won't end up like me. Xiao Bai cannot help but sigh. I understand. The situation may not be as bad as you think. After coming to the upper realm, they had been like a small boat that could sink into the ocean at any time. The people here are not simple. Offending someone with a strong background could be a disaster for them. Not long after, a dazzling white light exploded from the crystal ball. When they saw this familiar light, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichin could not help but look at each other. It seemed that the situation was just as they had thought. White Lion really did have the light attribute. I never thought that White Lion would have the same light attribute as me. Now that I think about it, it's really interesting. I wonder if this is a coincidence or if it was predestined. Bailey Hongzhuang's fair face was filled with astonishment. She could not help but be astonished. This was really too much of a coincidence. Xiao He could not help but sigh when she saw this. White Lion really does have the light attribute. However, just as everyone was confirming this, a black light suddenly appeared quietly. The black light gradually became thicker and stronger in the crystal ball. In the end, it and the light energy each occupied half of the crystal ball. Neither was weaker than the other. When they saw this, Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichin, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai could not help but be stunned. They never thought that White Lion would have two attributes. The White Lion actually possesses the light and darkness attributes. After knowing this result, Bailey Hongzhuang was in disbelief. When this happened to her and Di Beichin, she already found it strange. She did not expect White Lion to be the same as them. Beast Kings are so different from other demonic beasts. It's not hard to understand why their attributes are so different. Di Beichin said slowly, but its attributes are the same as ours, which proves that it is fated to be with us. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. She immediately pulled Baishir into her arms. Baishir, we are indeed on the same side. White Lion was obviously very satisfied with its attributes. Originally, it was wondering if it would have other attributes, but now, it was undoubtedly most satisfied with this result. The kind of master would have the kind of contract beast. Only then would they be the most compatible. This is great. Other than Xiao He, all of us are dark type. Di Beichin shook his head and sighed. This kind of situation would make people speechless in the upper realm. He did not expect that most of them were of the same attribute. Once they had cultivated their dark type powers, it was easy to imagine what would happen. Bailey Hongzhuang and the beasts looked at each other. They were also very helpless. Chapter 43:66. You're right. This is pretty good too. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Di Beichin's current responsibility was to change the cultivator's perception of darkness. Now that they all possessed the darkness attribute, they would naturally be able to perform better in the darkness attribute. I'm actually the only one without the darkness attribute. How unfair. Xiaohei was depressed. She felt like she had suddenly been excluded. Bailey Hongzhuang hugged Xiaohei and pinched her chubby cheeks. Don't be depressed. We're all one. Although we don't have a way to cultivate the energy of light right now. Trust me, we'll definitely find a way. Although she had decided not to join the Radiant Sacred Assembly, it did not mean that she was not prepared to cultivate the energy of light. She believed that there were many ways to cultivate, and not just one. Although the Radiant Sacred Assembly could only spread the cultivation method, and no one else could do so without permission, there would always be unexpected situations. If there was really no other way, she could just snatch it from other cultivators with the light attribute. It was not like she had never done something like that before. Yeah, Xiaohei, we're all one. Xiaohei, you don't have to be depressed. You all have the light attribute, but I don't. I'm the same as you in this aspect, Xiaobai smiled. Xiaohei's mood immediately improved when she heard everyone's consolation. She immediately nodded with a smile. You're right. It's fine as long as everyone can develop well. On the way back, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were in a very good mood. They only returned to the Raging Flames sect after buying some herbs they needed. When the cultivators of the Raging Flames sect saw how happy Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were, their eyes flickered with confusion. They could not help but feel pity and worry for Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiaohei. Without a cultivation method, Bailey Hongzhuang had no future. It went without saying for Di Beichun. His full attribute was indeed very enviable, but he was of the darkness attribute. From a moment that was confirmed, it meant that he no longer had any hope or future here. This was evident from the fact that there were fewer and fewer women who admired him. Everyone thought that they should be in despair right now, but the two of them just happened to be indifferent and even happy. They did not understand why. The two of them really aren't worried at all. They're actually in the mood to go out and play at a time like this. Perhaps they've given up. There's no hope anyway. There's no hope. Don't look at how happy they are. Maybe they're just faking it. Who knows how much pain they're suffering in their hearts. At this moment, Wang Yanhan couldn't help but frown as he walked over. What does it have to do with you? Stop worrying over nothing. Disperse, disperse. If you have the time to talk about others, focus on cultivating, said Yi Haomiao. Only when everyone dispersed did Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao walk over to Bailey Hongzhuang and Xiaohei. They comforted them with concern. Are you all right? These people just like to gossip. Don't worry about them. Chapter 43-67. Looking at how calm Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but sigh at how strong their mental fortitude was. If ordinary people were in their shoes, they would definitely look worried and gloomy. However, the two of them acted as if nothing had happened, as if nothing had affected them at all. It really wasn't easy. However, the two of them weren't stupid. They already understood the current situation. Junior sister, junior brother D, what do you plan to do in the future? Wang Yanhan's eyes were filled with worry. Now, even he couldn't help but feel distressed. After rejecting the cultivation method of the Holy Light Assembly and not having the cultivation method of the dark energy, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were no different from having their wings broken. It might be fine for a short period of time, but after a long time, they would really be treading on thin ice in the upper realm. Don't worry about us. We'll find a way. Di Beichun's handsome face was as calm as water. We'll find the cultivation method of the dark energy. Hearing Di Beichun's words, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao weren't optimistic at all. The inheritance of the dark energy disappeared long ago when the dark forces were annihilated. After so many years, many dark attribute cultivators have tried to find it, but to no avail. It's really too difficult for you to find the inheritance of the dark energy on your own. Wang Yanhan sighed. In his opinion, the inheritance of the dark energy might have completely disappeared from the entire world long ago. Wang Yanhan is right. If it could be found, it would have been found long ago. Do you think those dark attribute cultivators don't want to hold their heads high? It's just that they can't find a way, so they can only live in silence. Yi Hao Miao couldn't help but say. Yi Hao Miao also couldn't help but speak. He didn't want to attack Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun. He just wanted them to not be too naive. If they pinned their hopes on such an illusory thing, they would definitely be disappointed in the future. Senior brothers, I know that everything you've said is for our own good, but there's no better way now, is there? Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at Wang Yanhan and Beichun. Both she and Beichun felt very fortunate to have two friends who cared about them from the bottom of their hearts in the upper realm. With Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao were at a loss for words. Everything was as Bailey Hongzhuang had said. They didn't have any better ideas. Little junior sister, why don't you try to think of another way to join the Holy Light Assembly? Wang Yanhan still felt that it was a pity for Bailey Hongzhuang to give up like this. If she could join the Holy Assembly, then their situation would be much better than now. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. There's no need to try. The vice president is very insistent, and I don't intend to bother with her. Although a great man knows when to yield and when to stand tall, I'm a little girl. I don't intend to lower my head to her. Upon seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's determined look, Wang Yanhan sighed faintly and said, If there's anything we can help with, you must tell us. Thank you, senior brother. We will. All right, the D family seems to still be in Roman City. However, they have been much more well-behaved recently and haven't taken the initiative to cause trouble, Yi Hao Miao said slowly. Didn't you run into them when you went out today? Chapter 4368. They suffered a loss at our hands last time, so I don't think they'll dare to find trouble with us anytime soon. Di Beichun said slowly. However, all of you should stay in the Fiery Flames sect for the time being. Don't go out. They might find trouble with us at any time. Wang Yanhan and Yi Hao Miao nodded at Di Beichun's words. Bailey Hongzhuang was an inscription master. Not only did she have the Fiery Flames sect support, but Cheng Zonghao also thought highly of her. Under such circumstances, the Di family would not dare to act rashly. However, compared to them, it was a different story. They did not have a powerful backer like Bailey Hongzhuang, so it would be much easier for the Di family to attack them. Therefore, under the current circumstances, it was better for them to stay in the Fiery Flame sect for the time being. We understand, so we'll stay here for the time being. Wang Yanhan nodded. However, there will be an opportunity to go out and train in a few days. We'll all go out. What opportunity? Bailey Hongzhuang looked up, her bright eyes flickering with astonishment. She had not heard of this before. We just heard about it. The exact time has not been set, but we might all go together. However, it won't be just the Fiery Flame sect's cultivators. Cultivators from other sects will also go, so there might be a lot of competition. Competition for what? Di Beichun raised his long eyebrows. What treasures will there be in the training area? Actually, we're going there to explore, Yi Hao Miao explained. An abyss has appeared in the mountain range north of Rome and city. The situation is not clear yet. Someone has already gone to explore it, but there are no definite results. The situation in the abyss this time is rather complicated, so we don't know whether it's good or bad. Usually, when such a situation occurs, all the sects will send cultivators to investigate. The more people there are, the more power there is. It's easier to investigate. Moreover, this is a competition between cultivators from different sections. Whoever can find out the final result will bring glory to the sect. If you perform well, you'll be rewarded when you return to the sect, even if there are no treasures there. I've already experienced this in the Inferno School. Wang Yanhan added, every once in a while, something similar will happen. Actually, it's also a competition between the various sections. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun immediately understood. There would always be some competitions between the sects to promote the progress of the cultivators. At the same time, they would be able to better understand the situation of their opponents. Whether it was in the lower realm or the upper realm, the situation was the same. We understand. Cultivate well during this period of time, and strive to perform well when the time comes. All right. Looking at the backs of Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Haomiao, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao were also filled with emotions. The so-called cultivate well was actually just to comfort themselves. Fortunately, they wouldn't be left too far behind in the short term. Bailey Hongzhuang's movements were very fast. In a short period of time, she had already detoxified the spirit stone. Now that the spirit stones were no longer poisonous, they could be used without worry. Immediately after, they began to cultivate the power of darkness. Ever since their talents were awakened, almost all the cultivators had joined guilds of their respective attributes and began to cultivate their elemental powers. Naturally, they couldn't be left behind by others. Chapter 4369. As Bailey Hongzhuang and Yi Zichen transformed the primary energy in their bodies into dark energy, they felt that their primary energy was different from before. Darkness attribute practitioners are very good at hiding. Once their manipulation of dark energy is good enough, they can completely hide in the darkness, in the shadows, making it difficult for others to find them. Summoning skeleton armies is also our ability. As long as there are skeletons, we can use dark energy to summon them as our helpers. However, if we're not strong enough, we can only summon a small number of skeletons. If we're strong enough, we can summon a large number of skeletons. As Di Beichun described the characteristics of dark energy, Bailey Hongzhuang and the two beasties listened attentively. Today, Di Beichun was one of the few people in the world who had mastered the dark inheritance. If they followed what he said, they would be able to avoid detours. While they were cultivating dark energy, Xiaohe didn't give up on cultivation. Instead, it began to try to cultivate light energy. It felt that it might be able to find some methods by fumbling around on its own. Following the method Bailey Hongzhuang and the others used to transform their primary energy into dark energy, Xiaohe used a similar method to begin to transform light energy. Although there were slight differences between the two, they both believed that no matter how many changes there would always be some similarities between the various attributes. After starting to cultivate the power of darkness, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others enter the ocean world. Time passes slower there, and they have more time to cultivate than everyone else. Moreover, with opponents, their progress would be faster. After a period of seclusion, when Bailey Hongzhuang came out, she found that someone was looking for her. "Little junior sister, you're finally out." Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang finally open the door, Wang Yanhan and Yi Haomiao couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. "Senior brother, are you looking for me?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked surprised. "Is the training about to start?" "That's not it." Wang Yanhan shook his head. "Master Cheng is looking for you." "Cheng Zonghao?" Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang actually called Cheng Zonghao by his name, Wang Yanhan were slightly stunned. However, when they thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's achievements and status in the field of inscription, they understood a little. Usually, even Wu Wenfeng had to respectfully address Cheng Zonghao as Master Cheng when he saw him. "That's right. Master Cheng sent someone to invite you a few days ago, but you were in seclusion, so he didn't disturb you. He said that he would invite you over for a chat after you came out of seclusion. He didn't expect that you wouldn't come out of seclusion for several days." Wang Yanhan said slowly. They lived next door to Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as there was any movement, they would be the first to notice it. After hearing some noises, they opened the door to take a look. Sure enough, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had already come out. "I see." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Since the last time she saw Cheng Zonghao, she knew that Cheng Zonghao would definitely find a chance to talk to her. "Little junior sister, do you want to go and take a look?" Wang Yanhan couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and replied, "I'll go and meet him." Previously, when Cheng Zonghao came to invite her, she had already rejected him once. Last time outside the Raging Flames sect, Cheng Zonghao could be considered to have helped her. Chapter 4370. Wang Yanhan nodded. Judging from the situation last time, Master Qing doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and declined to comment. She couldn't make a conclusion too early on this matter. Needless to say, Chang Zonghao came to find her time and time again to get something from her. If there were no benefits, with Chang Zonghao's status, he wouldn't put in so much effort. As for what he wanted, she wasn't sure at the moment. The last time they met, Chang Zonghao did have a good attitude. However, if she rejected him, the situation would be uncertain. Wife, are you sure you want to go? After Wang Yanhan and Bailey Hongzhuang left, Di Beichen spoke slowly. He also thought of the problem. Even if I don't go now, Chang Zonghao will find a way to see me. Since I have to face him sooner or later, I might as well go earlier. I'll go with you, Di Beichen said. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked out of the Raging Flames sect. They asked a random person and found out where Chang Zonghao lived. As the only inscription master in the city, Chang Zonghao was undoubtedly very famous. His mansion was also very luxurious. After they reported their names, the servant immediately brought Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang into the mansion. Obviously, someone had already informed them beforehand. Please wait here for a moment. I'll go and invite Master Cheng. The servant poured tea for Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Hongzhuang and said respectfully, Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Cheng Zonghao's servant was indeed very polite to them. However, she didn't know why Cheng Zonghao was looking for her. Logically speaking, Cheng Zonghao was also an inscription master. He shouldn't have any requests for her. Could it be that he just wanted to rope her in? Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was thinking, Cheng Zonghao's figure appeared in their line of sight. Miss Bailey, Master D, I'm sorry for not going out to meet you. Cheng Zonghao walked in with a face full of smiles. His attitude was polite and courteous. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen cupped their hands. Master Cheng is too polite. With your status, you must be very busy. Actually, I'm also an idle person. Cheng Zonghao smiled. Please have a seat. The taste of the tea in my mansion is quite good. It is indeed a good tea. Master Cheng, why? Is there anything that? Bailey Hongzhuang's face was calm as she calmly asked, Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Cheng Zonghao chuckled. Miss Bailey is really a straightforward person. Since you're so straightforward, I won't hide it. Actually, with Miss Bailey's ability, you can establish your own sect. If we join forces, the inscriptions in the entire realm and city will belong to the two of us. Do you want to stay in the Raging Flames sect? To be honest, inscriptions are just my side job. What I value more is cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Thank you for your appreciation, Master Cheng. Actually, I don't have many inscriptions now. I only gave a small amount to the Raging Flames sect. Chapter 4371. Cheng Zonghao, who had been puzzled by Bailey Hongzhuang, immediately understood after hearing her words. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang valued cultivation the most instead of inscriptions. This thought had undoubtedly far exceeded his expectations. Generally speaking, between an inscription master and a cultivator, anyone would choose the first one because it would be much easier to walk on this road. He didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would actually prefer the latter. In this way, it was easy to understand Bailey Hongzhuang's choice. So, Miss Bailey values cultivation the most. Cheng Zonghao nodded. However, even if you leave the Blazing Flame sect, you can still cultivate. Actually, with your current situation, although the Blazing Flame sect can help you solve some problems, they can't help you too much. From what I know, you've run into trouble in the Holy Assembly, but the Blazing Flames sect can't help you solve it. Right? That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang replied. Actually, this isn't the Blazing Flames sect's problem. It's a conflict between me and the Vice President of the Holy Assembly. I can't agree to her request, so it's useless no matter who comes forward to solve this problem. However, Cheng Zonghao waved his hand. No, I can help you solve this problem. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were stunned when they heard this. Their eyes flashed with astonishment. You can solve it? That's right. Cheng Zonghao smiled confidently. The president of the Holy Assembly went out of town a few days ago and will be back in a few days. I have a good relationship with him, so as long as I come forward, I guarantee that I can solve this problem for you. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. If someone else had said this, they would not have cared at all. They would have thought that the person was just painting a pie in the sky. However, with Cheng Zonghao's identity and position, it was indeed possible for him to do this. Moreover, there was no need for him to exaggerate his abilities. If that was the case, it would be a good thing for them. Master Cheng, we're all sensible people. Since that's the case, why don't we speak frankly? What do you want? Bailey Hongzhuang's black phoenix eyes flashed with a sharp light. She was very clear that Cheng Zonghao wouldn't help her so much for no reason. As early as when Cheng Zonghao came to find her time and time again, she understood that the other party must want to get something from her. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Cheng Zonghao could not help but chuckle. Can't I do it for the sake of our friendship? Bailey Hongzhuang also laughed out loud. Master Cheng, I'm not a greenhorn. I've long given up on this kind of pie falling from the sky. The world had always been fair. If you want to get something, you would have to pay a price. You're a busy person. I believe that you won't waste your time on me for this so-called friendship. Why don't you just tell me what you want? This way, we can see if we can make an exchange of conditions. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate jade-like face was filled with a bright smile. Her expression was calm, and her eyes were clear. It was just a business discussion. It was useless to say anything more. What mattered was whether their conditions were suitable. Chapter 4372. Miss Bailey, putting all of this aside, I really admire you. Cheng Zonghao's gaze was sincere. Nowadays, there were not many young people whom he admired. However, he had admired Bailey Hongzhuang since the first time he had met her. This cultivator from the lower realm obviously did not have any background, but she had been able to take advantage of it. Logically speaking, it would have been very easy for the D family to deal with two cultivators from the lower realm. However, after meeting Bailey Hongzhuang, everything had become impossible. This was not the D family's problem, but Bailey Hongzhuang was smart enough. Just like how she was talking to him now, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very smart. She understood the rules of this world too well. Furthermore, he could not ignore Di Beichun, who was beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Di Beichun had not spoken much ever since he had arrived, his deep and wise gaze made him understand that he had also seen through everything. He had just not said anything. Di Beichun had also been paying attention to their surroundings. If there was any unhappiness between them, he was already prepared to leave with Bailey Hongzhuang immediately. This young man was very protective of Bailey Hongzhuang. Thank you, Master Cheng. I feel very honored to be admired by you. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Master Cheng, I am a very simple person. You can tell me what you want directly. Since you are so straightforward, I will not say any more nonsense. Cheng Zonghao's expression became serious. I want to know the person behind you. As soon as Cheng Zonghao finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other without batting an eyelid. They were secretly criticizing him in their hearts, but they did not reveal any clues on the surface. They had come to the upper realm alone and without any help. It was no longer a secret that they did not have any background. Everyone was very clear about this situation. What exactly had made Cheng Zonghao mistakenly think that they actually had a background? Master Cheng, what do you mean? Bailey Hongzhuang's expression was calm as she looked at Cheng Zonghao in confusion. It was obvious that she did not understand what he meant. In fact, she really did not understand. However, in Cheng Zonghao's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang was deliberately pretending. In his heart, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's disguise was not bad. I have seen your inscriptions. You should know about this, right? Cheng Zonghao smiled faintly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. I know. When I first saw your inscriptions, I realized that your inscriptions had reached a perfect level. This was something that I had been trying to achieve all these years. Unfortunately, after spending so much time, I was still unable to do so. Thus, when I discovered that you were able to do so, I was pleasantly surprised. Cheng Zonghao said while observing Bailey Hongzhuang's expression. Sure enough, when he said this, he realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed a little. Bailey Hongzhuang had never understood why Cheng Zonghao, who was also an inscription master, would pursue her so closely. Now, she finally understood. It turned out that the inscriptions that Cheng Zonghao had not yet reached the level of skill, so he had been so persistent. This was where the problem lay. Chapter 4373. Although Bailey Hongzhuang found it strange that Cheng Zonghao would give her a master out of nowhere, she thought about it carefully and understood his thoughts. With her current age, it was already surprising that her inscription technique could reach such a level. Moreover, she could do things that Cheng Zonghao couldn't, so it was normal for him to think so. Thinking about it, if it was anyone else, they would have the same opinion. In fact, she did have a master, and this master was abnormally strong, and that was the Chaos Ring. Thinking about this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly, then nodded and said, "Master Cheng, you're right, I do have a master." Bewitching also nodded quietly. At this time, bringing up a groundless master wasn't a bad thing for Bailey Hongzhuang. On the contrary, it was a good thing. Only Cheng Zonghao thought that they had a strong enough backing, so he wouldn't dare to act against them. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang admitted this point, Cheng Zonghao's face revealed a joyful smile. It seemed that his guess was wrong. "I have some questions to ask your master. I wonder if you can introduce me to him?" Cheng Zonghao's eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. Ever since he knew of Bailey Hongzhuang's ability in inscription technique, he had wanted to pay a visit to Bailey Hongzhuang's master. Before this, he also thought of directly capturing Bailey Hongzhuang and learning the inscription technique from her. However, after thinking about it, he gave up on this idea, because just from this inscription technique, he could tell that her master's background wasn't simple. If he offended such a big figure, it wouldn't be beneficial to him. If the other party was angry and came to find trouble with him, he might not be able to withstand his own anger. In this way, he might as well build a good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, and through Bailey Hongzhuang's recommendation, he might be able to get a better result. Bailey Hongzhuang pretended to be deep in thought for a moment, then said, "My master has always been very good to me. Master Cheng, you've helped me before, so I believe that my master should be willing to meet you. However, my master has something to do and isn't here recently." Hearing this, Cheng Zonghao was slightly disappointed. He really couldn't wait to meet that master. "If my master is here, I wouldn't be restrained by the D family. Actually, I understand that he left for a period of time to give me space to grow. Otherwise, if I was always under his protection, it would be difficult for me to grow by myself. Master Cheng, don't you think so?" Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Cheng Zonghao finally understood. "You're right. Young people should have the opportunity to rely on themselves. Your master is for your own good. He really cares of you. Actually, he's his D's, he's. If it wasn't for him, it would be hard for me to imagine my current state." Saying this, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "Master Cheng, if my master comes back, I'll definitely recommend you to him, but I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a while." Cheng Zonghao waved his hand. "No problem, I can wait." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "All right, I'll inform you when my master comes back." Chapter 4374. Master Cheng, you're too polite. You've helped me before. What I'm doing is just a small matter. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. For a moment, Cheng Zonghao felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was more and more pleasing to the eye. Originally, he was worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would hide it from him and not be willing to tell him. He didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be such a straightforward person. However, when he recalled how Bailey Hongzhuang treated her two friends, he understood. If my information is correct, The president of the Radiant Sacred Assembly will be back tomorrow. When he's back, I'll introduce you to him. Don't worry, Gong Tianfeng is only the vice president. The president has the most authority. In fact, Gong Tianfeng's actions have already made many people unhappy. It has affected the Radiant Sacred Assembly to a certain extent. Moreover, your attribute talent is so outstanding. The president has no reason to reject you. Cheng Zhonghao's eyes flashed with a sharp light. His aura was released. He was very confident about this. Looking at Cheng Zhonghao's confident look, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and cupped her hands. Thank you, Master Cheng. I really don't see eye to eye with this vice president. I thought that it would be impossible for me to join the Radiant Sacred Assembly. If Master Cheng has a way, I'll be very grateful. Although she was unhappy with Gong Tianfeng, she wouldn't joke about her future. As long as they could obtain the cultivation method of the light attribute, it would be a good thing for them. Moreover, she, Deep Beichun, Baishe, and Xiao He all had the light attribute. If they could cultivate the light attribute, their battle strength would definitely increase greatly. Don't worry. Wait for my news. Goodbye. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun stood up and left Cheng Zhonghao's residence. After achieving his goal, Cheng Zhonghao didn't invite Bailey Hongzhuang to join him. In fact, just like what Bailey Hongzhuang said, the inscriptions in the entire Rome and city belonged to him, which was undoubtedly the best. Bailey Hongzhuang was only in charge of the Raging Flame School's inscriptions, which wouldn't affect him much. After leaving Cheng Zhonghao's mansion, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun looked at each other and smiled. I thought that we would face a dragon's pool and a tiger's den this time. I didn't expect it to be so easy. On the contrary, we got a big gift. You can rest assured now. Deep Beichun chuckled. He knew that although Bailey Hongzhuang had rejected the Holy Light Assembly, she still cared about this matter. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't want her future to be affected by a woman she hated. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Isn't that good? Since Cheng Zhonghao is so confident, I think this matter will most likely succeed. It will definitely succeed, Di Beichun said with certainty. However, you have to go back and face that disgusting woman again. Are you okay with that? No problem. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She said she wouldn't let me in, but I went in anyway. The person who should be the most unhappy should be her, not me. If I can stimulate her and make her understand that the Holy Light Assembly doesn't belong to her alone, why wouldn't I do it? Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged. If she could make her opponent unhappy, she would be happy. Good move. Di Beichun nodded. That vice president will have a headache after meeting my wife. I'll take it as a compliment. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.